All right, folks. I think this illustrates who my builder is, Lance Jochims. I'm going to refer to Emily Litella. I'll explain Emily Litella later on. Dumb and Dumber and Peppermint Patty. I'll bring those in soon. Now what you have to understand is this is an email from Lance's attorney yesterday at about 3:30 in the evening. Now realize that this refers to the fact that Lance hired some professional painters to fix the screw-ups that were done by his initial painters. Now Mr. Hoffbauer, Attorney Hoffbauer, sent an email to my attorney stating that the painters are at the residence today. My understanding is this is the last task on the punch list. However, your client, referring to me, added items to the painter's list. The client has agreed to pay the painters to do the extra items, but not the ceiling, quote, texture work requested by Mr. Montgomery today for numerous reasons. I don't even know what that means, for numerous reasons. My client is attempting to conclude the matter, but will not do more work than is reasonable above and beyond what is agreed to at mediation. So, understand, I didn't ask the painters to do anything. They were hired by Lance to come in and identify those issues which needed to be resolved from the previous poor work of the previous painters. Well, this got my attorney quite excited because, of course, he somehow believed Attorney Hoffbauer. Now, like I said, we're going to talk about Emily Litella, a Saturday Night Live character done by Gilda Radner. We're going to talk about Peppermint Patty, a character in the Peanuts cartoon. And we're going to talk about the movie Dumb and Dumber. Now I'm going to turn the camera down in a second, and I'll show you the email that finally resolved this. All right, we're going to get to that email. So this is the email that's about an hour later. And it's from Attorney Hoffbauer. And it says, I was subsequently advised that the builder agreed to do all the extras. So what this points out is that the attorney that represents Lance, and presumably Lance too, I don't think how this attorney could get this information without Lance giving it to him. Apparently Lance spoke to the painter. His name is John. He was here with Dylan. Wonderful guys, professional, did an excellent job. And they said, listen, we've talked to Lance, and a couple of the ceilings in a couple of the rooms were not painted correctly. I thought, okay, do I notice? No, but these guys are professionals. And they said, hey, we really need to come back tomorrow, which is today, and fix those problems. They're also going to fix a poorly done wall in the garage. So somehow, Emily Litella, Peppermint Patty, and Dumb and Dumber got the idea that I had asked for something that wasn't approved. Now, a lot of people think before they speak. Many people speak before they think. I think the emails that I just showed you are a demonstration of speaking before you think. So in a space of about an hour and 15 minutes, they went from what might consider outrage. He's Montgomery, me, the client, me, is asking for all this work, which we don't agree to, and we're not going to do it, and it's not going to happen, and on and on and on, and this is trying to, just all this excitement. And then an hour and 15 minutes later, they go, oh, I guess my client agreed to this work. So it's much ado about nothing, which I think is a Shakespeare thing. So let me get into Emily Litella. And Emily Litella was a character played by Gilda Radner on Saturday Night Live in the 70s. And she was an elderly female who was on their news show, their obviously comedic news show. And Emily Litella, Gilda Radner, would always misinterpret what she heard. And she'd go off on a 5-minute rant about how this was wrong and that was wrong. And one example was apparently she had been asked to comment about the Supreme Court's ruling on the death penalty. I have no idea what it was. Realized it was a comedic skit. And she misinterpreted the word death to be deaf, D-E-A-F, hard of hearing. So Gilder, in her character of Emily Litella, goes off on a 5-minute rant about how deaf people have enough problems already, the Supreme Court shouldn't be getting involved. And the people on the newscast, I think it was, was it Bill Murray and, I've forgotten her name, one of the characters on Saturday Night Live, had to spend all his time trying to explain to Gilda Radner, who's Emily Litella, that it was death, D-E-A-T-H, not deaf, D-E-A-F. And Gilda Radner would finally realize that she'd gone off on a tangent, ranting about the death penalty when it was really the death penalty. And then she would conclude her rant with, when she finally realized it was completely off base, completely misinterpreted it as, oh, never mind. And she had this cutest way of saying never mind. Well, one thing I've learned with Lance and his attorney is that they're commemorating, they're showing how much respect they had for Gilda Radner. Because that's the routine they do. They misinterpret something, they get the data wrong, and they go off on one of these rants. And then after they finally figured out that they were wrong, they do the equivalent of never mind. Now, how does Peppermint Patty work into this? Well, Peppermint Patty was a character in Peanuts. And Peppermint Patty was a young girl who misinterpreted everything. And in spite of the best efforts of Charlie Brown and the rest of the crew to get her to understand something, she just never understood it. And an example was, she was convinced Snoopy, the dog, was in fact a funny-looking kid. It is also my understanding with Peppermint Patty is that it took her a long time to realize that Snoopy was a beagle. And people kept trying to tell her, it's a beagle, it's not a funny-looking kid. But Peppermint Patty was so stuck on her misinterpretation that she couldn't be convinced of it otherwise. And apparently Peppermint Patty, when she finished, I think it was grade school, got a diploma honoring her as the only student that got straight D minuses. So implicit in this is Peppermint Patty wasn't the brightest bulb in the room. She wasn't the sharpest blade in the drawer, and she never quite realized it. And even after she realized that Snoopy was a dog, a beagle, not a funny-looking kid, she never internally reflected and said, oh my God, I've screwed up. Now, Dumb and Dumber is a movie that was done years ago, and hopefully everybody understands Dumb and Dumber. So the question is, am I dealing with Clown World? Is this an alternate reality that I deal with? And I only tell you this is because if you do select my contractor as your contractor, you may experience the equivalent of Emily Litella on Saturday Night Live, Dumb and Dumber, or Peppermint Patty. Be prepared for it. Now, what I've told my attorney is when these two people, the attorney and the contractor, go off on a tangent, wait 48 hours before you respond. Don't take anything they say or do seriously, because it's almost self-correcting. This is not the first time this has happened, and I will tell you right now, it will not be the last time. So that's my story for today. The weather's about 40 degrees outside. It's, I think it's March. Is it March 3rd? March 2nd. Yeah, I think it's March 2nd. It's been a good day. They're finishing up the painting today. And they, of course, are very professional and very good at it and very communicative. And I really enjoy that, because when they come out and ask a question, I give them an answer. Now, you would expect that most subcontractors would talk to the contractor. Well, Lance is an absentee contractor. And that was true when the house was being built. You were lucky if he'd show up once a week. All in all, good day. I hope you're all having a good time. If you're not having a good time, I certainly hope you get a better time. The fact that it's warm, that this is our third day above freezing, the snow has disappeared. And even more importantly, and I'll show you the look. Yeah. Sorry that you get a picture of the floor, but that's just the way it is sometimes. There's my driveway. It was covered in a sheet of ice 3 days ago. I mean, it was a death trap. It was ice everywhere. And pretty much it's all gone. They expect some rain to occur in the next couple of days, which is nice because if you're not familiar with the Midwest, with our snow, is we tend to get a lot of salt laid on our roads, and salt is bad for cars. And I have some old collectible cars, and I am just itching to get them out of storage and go driving. Patience is a virtue. In a month, I won't remember this. So all in all, have a good time. And if you have a Peppermint Patty, or a Dumb and Dumber, or an Emily Litella in your life, then I understand your misery. Love you and goodbye.